Growing up as the youngest of 5 wasn't the worst thing in the world, but it definitely came with its own brand of invisibility. It wasn't the kind you see in sad, coming-of-age movies, where the ignored kid stares longingly at their parents, desperate for love. No, my version of invisibility was just practical. My parents were simply too busy. When your older siblings are constantly in and out of hospitals, therapists' offices, and crisis mode interventions, the one kid who isn't actively falling apart kind of fades into the background. That was me. At first, I didn't even notice it myself. As a kid, I kept to my own little world, books, video games, whatever could entertain me without needing anyone else. I had no responsibilities beyond the usual don't fail school, and nobody asked much of me. My parents were stretched thin, managing everything with my siblings, and I figured, well, at least I wasn't a burden. And hey, there were perks. No curfews, no helicopter parenting, no one hovering over me demanding to know where I was going or who I was with. It was easy to slip in and out of the house unnoticed, which is exactly how I ended up moving out without them even realizing it. But I'll get to that. If there's one good thing that came from my childhood, it's Mia and Clara. We found each other when we were 9, all of us coming from homes where we felt like an afterthought. It was never a dramatic, teary bond we just clicked, like straight puzzle pieces that finally fit somewhere. The 3 of us stuck together through everything: school, first crushes, heartbreaks, all the messiness of growing up. When it came time for college, we made a pact. We were going together, and we did. I didn't even tell my parents where I was applying. I got my acceptance letter, packed my things, and left. They noticed eventually, but by then, I was already living my best life 2 states away. For a while, they sent the occasional text, generic check-ins, like how's school, or hope you're doing well. I'd respond with something equally generic. We weren't close, so why pretend? I graduated, got a job, and kept moving forward. Meanwhile, they continued as they always had, too wrapped up in their own world to really notice me. Until one day, out of nowhere, my mom called. The Thanksgiving that never was I almost didn't answer. We never called each other, so my first thought was, who died? But no, she was calling to ask when I was coming home for Thanksgiving. I blinked at my phone. What? Apparently, they decided to do Thanksgiving this year, and I was expected to just show up. The problem? It was 3 days away. I had plans a ski trip with Mia and Clara. Even if I wanted to go home, which I didn't, I would have needed to book a ticket weeks ago. When I told her I wasn't coming, she got mad. She started guilt-tripping me, saying she'd be all alone because my dad was spending the day visiting my brother in the facility he was in. I get it, I really do, but she gave me 3 days' notice and expected me to drop everything for a holiday. We never even celebrated growing up. I told her I couldn't make it. She hung up on me. For a second, I felt guilty, but then I scrolled through our old texts and realized she had never even mentioned Thanksgiving before that call. They expected me to read their minds. I sent a polite text later that night. Hey, I've got a ski trip booked for Christmas too, but I'd love to catch up in the new year. No response. A few days passed. I pushed the whole thing to the back of my mind and focused on the upcoming trip. Then, right when I thought I was in the clear, my dad sent a text. The threat that made no sense. If you don't come home for Christmas, I'm cutting off your college funds. I actually laughed out loud. I graduated 3 years ago. What college funds? I had to reread the message to make sure I wasn't missing something. Maybe he was talking about one of my siblings? Maybe he thought I was someone else? So I texted back, trying to be polite, Dad. I graduated 3 years ago. If you think you're still paying for my college, you might want to check your bank account because someone's scamming you. I thought that would be the end of it. Nope. A few hours later, another text came in. This time, it was the full-blown "you're selfish. We sacrificed so much for you, and you don't appreciate it" speech. First of all, I never asked them for anything. Second, my grandma paid for my college. She told me straight up she didn't want my parents involved in my education, so she took care of everything herself. So I had no idea what my dad was even talking about. At this point, I was irritated. I get that they're stressed, but guilt-tripping me over something they didn't even do? That's next level. I texted back, I'm sorry you feel that way, but Grandma paid for my college. I'm happy to catch up after the holidays, but I already have plans. I thought that would be the end of it. Nope. My dad went full drama mode, texting me about how I had abandoned the family, how I was turning my back on them, and how he was done helping me if I wasn't going to make an effort. At this point, point, I just stared at my phone like, what is happening? Abandoned the family. I've been on my own for years, and they barely even noticed. And now, because I won't drop everything for Christmas, suddenly I'm the villain? I wanted to ignore it, but I couldn't stop thinking about it. The more I thought, the angrier I got. They never checked in on me, never asked how I was doing. But the second they needed something, I was supposed to step up and be the perfect daughter. So I called Mia and Clara to vent. Mia, ever the rational one, said, they probably just want you there so they don't feel guilty. Not because they actually want to see you. Clara, blunt as ever, just said, screw them. You don't owe them anything. I decided to sleep on it, cool off before I said anything I'd regret. Then my phone buzzed again. This time, the text was short, cold. If you don't come home, don't bother coming back at all. I read that and felt nothing, just numb. How did we get here? How did we go from barely talking for years to this? For a long time, I just stared at the message, debating whether to respond. Part of me wanted to fire back with every ounce of frustration I'd been holding on to for years, to lay out all the times they ignored me, forgot about me, treated me like an afterthought. But instead, I just put my phone down, rolled over, and went to sleep. I wasn't going to let them drag me into their mess. Not this time. I woke up the next morning to more texts. This time, from my mom. She didn't say much, just the usual guilt tripping. We're disappointed in you. We don't understand why you're being so distant. We hope you change your mind. I couldn't help but laugh. Distant? That was an understatement. I had been distant my whole life, but they were only just now noticing. I ignored the messages and focused on getting ready for the ski trip. Mia and Clara were hyped, and honestly, so was I. It felt like the perfect escape from all the family drama. And for a little while, it worked. We hit the road, blasting music, stopping at random gas stations for snacks, and just vibing. It was the most relaxed I'd felt in weeks. But of course, things couldn't stay peaceful forever. Right in the middle of the trip, my phone buzzed. A message from my mom. This time, it was different. If you don't come home soon, we're going to have to start making decisions about the future without you. Decisions you won't like. I just stared at the screen. Decisions I won't like? That's when it hit me. This wasn't just about Christmas. It wasn't even about me being home for the holidays. They were planning something bigger. Maybe it had to do with one of my brothers. Maybe it was about the house. I didn't know, but suddenly it all made sense. They didn't want me back because they missed me. They wanted me back because they needed something from me. And honestly, that realization felt like a punch to the gut. The call that changed everything after the ski trip. I was back home, settling into my usual routine. Work, errands, trying to pretend my phone wasn't sitting there like a ticking time bomb of unresolved family drama. Then I got a message from my older brother Jake. We hadn't talked in months, maybe longer. I stared at his name on my screen for a second before opening it. Hey, we need to talk, I sighed. Here we go, I texted back. About what? A few minutes later, my phone rang. I almost let it go to voicemail, but curiosity got the better of me. I answered, hello? No small talk? No hey, how've you been? Jake went straight to the point. Mom and Dad have been talking about making you the legal guardian for one of the boys when they're gone. I almost dropped my phone. My heart started racing. What the hell are you talking about? I asked. Jake sighed, like I was the one being difficult. You know how things are. Mom and Dad aren't gonna be around forever. They need to know someone's gonna step up. I could feel the anger bubbling up. And they think that someone is me? Yeah, you're the only one who's stable. The rest of us have our own issues. I let out a bitter laugh. Wow. So they ignore me my entire life, and now suddenly, I'm the responsible one? The one who's supposed to clean up their mess? Jake didn't say anything. Did they ever think to ask me? Or was this just a decision they made behind my back? He hesitated, then finally admitted, yeah, pretty much. I was livid. This wasn't just about me skipping Christmas anymore. This was about them planning my entire future without even telling. I took a deep breath, trying to stay calm. So what? I'm supposed to just drop my whole life and move back home? Give up everything I've worked for? Jake didn't have an answer for that. He just started talking about how hard things were for our parents, how much stress they were under, how they were just trying to do what was best for the family. I wasn't having it. I'm not doing it. Olivia, no, I'm not going to be their backup plan. They didn't give a crap about me for 25 years, and now they want me to be the one who takes care of everything? Screw that. Jake was quiet for a moment. Then he said, I get it, I do, but you're still part of the family. That word family, it made me want to scream. Oh, now I'm part of the family? I snapped. Funny how that only happens when they need something. I was done. Tell them I'm not interested, I said, and don't bother calling me about this again. I hung up before he could respond. Then I sat there, staring at my phone, trying to process everything. It felt like my whole life had been leading up to this moment, where I finally had enough. Enough of the guilt trips. Enough of being ignored until it was convenient. Enough of being treated like an afterthought until suddenly I wasn't. A few days passed. Silence, no texts, no calls. It was like they were waiting for me to come to my senses, to realize my mistake. Then a letter showed up in the mail from my mom. I almost didn't open it, but I did, and it was exactly what I expected. The final straw. It was long, rambling, full of guilt tripping. She went on and on about how much they needed me, how hard things were, how they didn't know what they were going to do without me. But the part that really pissed me off, the last paragraph. We're not asking for much, Olivia. We just need to know that when we're gone, someone will step up for the family. That's when it hit me. This wasn't about me. It was never about me. They didn't care about having me in their lives. They just wanted to make sure someone would be around to clean up their mess when they were gone. I crumpled up the letter and threw it in the trash. I was done. Truly, completely done. After I trashed the letter, I thought that was it. I thought I had made myself clear. I wasn't their backup plan. I wasn't going to be the one to clean up their mess. But of course, they weren't done. A week or two passed. Things were quiet, too quiet. No texts, no calls, nothing. I should have felt relieved, and I did at first. Then, one afternoon, my phone rang. A number I didn't recognize. I almost ignored it, but something in me was curious. Maybe it was Jake again. Maybe it was my parents using a different number, since I'd been ignoring theirs. I answered. Hey, Olivia, it's Sarah. I froze. Sarah was one of my sisters. We were never close. She had always been dealing with her own stuff, hospitals, therapists, medications. I felt bad for her growing up, but I never really knew her. So hearing from her now, after all this, it felt weird. Hey, I said cautiously. What's up? She sighed. Look, I know things have been rough between you and Mom and Dad, but I really need you to listen to me. And there it was. More guilt, more family duty talk. I braced myself. Okay, what is it? She took a deep breath. They're not doing well. Like, really not doing well. Dad's health is going downhill fast. They don't know what to do, Olivia. They're freaking out. I didn't say anything right away. It wasn't that I didn't care. I did. I didn't want my parents to suffer. But after everything, after all the years they ignored me, pushed me aside, only reaching out when they needed something, I just couldn't rush in and fix things for them. I wasn't their band-aid. I'm sorry to hear that, I said carefully. But I can't just drop everything, Sarah. I have a life too, she sighed, clearly frustrated. I get that, but you're the only one who's in a position to help. Jake's barely holding it together. And you know what's going on with me and the others. There's no one else, Olivia. I clenched my jaw. Yeah? Well, maybe Mom and Dad should have thought about that before now. I snapped. They let this all build up, thinking it would magically work itself out. And now, because I'm the only one who got out and built a stable life, it's my problem? That's not fair, Sarah. She was quiet for a second. Then, softly, she said, I know it's not fair, but this is where we are. They need help. And there it was. The same old story. No matter how far I ran, no matter how hard I tried to separate myself from the mess, they always found a way to try and drag me back in. I could feel the frustration building inside me, the years of resentment bubbling to the surface. I'm not doing it, I said, sharper than I intended. I'm not cleaning up their mess. They didn't care about me when I was a kid, and they sure as hell don't get to come to me now just because it's convenient. I could hear the hurt in Sarah's voice when she spoke again. I get it, Olivia. I really do. But this isn't about you or me. It's about the family. It's about what's going to happen to the boys when they're gone. If we don't step up, who will? That hit me hard. Not because I suddenly felt responsible, but because it made me realize just how trapped we all were. My parents had spent years neglecting me, pushing me aside. And now? They were trying to use me as their escape plan. And my siblings, they were just as stuck as I was, Only difference? They weren't fighting it. I'm sorry, I said again, softer this time. But I can't. I won't. There was a long pause. I could feel her disappointment, but I wasn't going to cave. Not this time. Okay, she finally said, her voice flat. I'll tell them. Then she hung up, and I just sat there, staring at my phone, feeling a mix of relief and guilt. I didn't owe my parents anything. I knew that. But still, it hurt. It hurt knowing my family was falling apart, and I was powerless to stop it. Or maybe I wasn't powerless. Maybe I was just choosing not to set myself on fire to keep them warm. The last straw, a few days later, another letter came from my mom. This one was even worse than the first. No fake warmth, no pleasantries. She went straight for the guilt trip. I can't believe you would turn your back on us in our time of need. After everything we sacrificed for you, we gave you everything, Olivia. And this is how you repay us? And then the final dagger. I just don't know what I did to deserve a daughter who is this selfish. I read that line over and over, and for a second, it worked. I felt that old familiar sting of guilt, the same guilt I'd felt my entire life. Then I remembered. I remembered all the times they ignored me, all the times I needed them, and they weren't there. And I realized this wasn't about needing help. This was about control. They weren't reaching out because they cared about. They were reaching out because they needed something from me, because I was useful now. I crumpled up the letter and threw it in the trash. I was done. For real this time. I wasn't going to be their pawn. I wasn't going to be their backup plan. I had my own life now, and I wasn't going to let them take that away from me. The next day, I blocked their numbers. I blocked Jake, too, just to be safe. It wasn't an easy decision, but it was the only one that felt right. I couldn't keep letting them drag me down. Couldn't keep letting them make me feel like I owed them something. They made their choices. Now they had to live with them. For the first time in forever, I felt free. Blocking their numbers felt like a relief. For the first time in forever, I wasn't waiting for the next guilt-tripping message. I wasn't dreading a surprise call or some long-winded email about family duty or how much they sacrificed for me. It was quiet, peaceful, and I finally felt like I had control over my own life. For a few weeks, nothing happened. No letters, no texts, no unexpected calls from unknown numbers. I threw myself into work, hung out with Mia and Clara, and just lived my life. And for a while, it was good. Then, about 2 weeks later, someone knocked on my door. At first, I thought it was a package, or maybe a neighbor needing something. But when I opened the door, there she was, my mom. The final confrontation, I froze. I had no idea how she found me. I mean, I hadn't exactly been hiding, but I also hadn't given her my address. She looked different, older, more tired, like the weight of everything was finally catching up to her. But I didn't feel sorry for her. Not anymore. What are you doing here? I asked, my voice cold. She didn't answer right away, just stood there, looking at me like she was seeing me for the first time. Then she said, "We need to talk, Olivia." I sighed. "No, we really don't." I stayed right where I was, blocking the doorway. I wasn't about to let her in. "Please," she said, her voice softer now. "Your father's getting worse. He's in and out of the hospital. We don't know how much time he has left." And there it was, the final card she had been waiting to play. The "Your father is dying" card. I wasn't heartless. I didn't want my dad to suffer. But after everything they put me through, I wasn't going to let her use this as a way to guilt me into coming back. I took a deep breath. "I'm sorry to hear that, but that's not my problem." She flinched like I had slapped her. "Olivia, please. We just need you to be there for the family." I actually laughed. "For the family? What family? The one that ignored me for 25 years? The one that only talks to me when they need something?" Her eyes filled with tears. But I wasn't buying it. "That's not fair," she whispered. "We did the best we could. You don't understand what it was like. Raising all of you, dealing with everything. We didn't have time for you because we were trying to keep everyone else alive." There it was, the excuse I had heard a million times before. "And that's not my fault," I said, my voice firm. "You made the choice to have 5 kids. You made the choice to focus on everyone else and leave me behind. That was your decision, not mine. And now, you're trying to make me feel guilty for it?" She just stood there, silent. "I'm not your backup plan, Mom. I'm not the person who's going to come in and fix everything for you. You made your choices. Now you have to deal with them." Her expression hardened. "So that's it? You're just going to turn your back on us?" I shook my head. "No, you turned your back on me a long time ago. I'm just finally walking away." For a long moment, she didn't say anything. Then she let out a shaky breath, turned around, and walked back to her car. I watched her go, waiting to feel something. Sadness, regret. But all I felt was free. The aftermath. After she left, I sat down on my couch, just processing everything. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't even hurt. I was just done. Done with the guilt. Done with the manipulation. Done with trying to be part of a family that never really wanted me, at least. Not until they needed something. The next few weeks were quiet. No calls. No letters. Nothing. And honestly, it was the best I had felt in a long time. I focused on work. Spent time with Mia and Clara. Actually enjoyed my life instead of waiting for the next wave of family drama. Then, about a month later, I got an email. Not from my mom, not from Sarah, from Jake. It was short. Just a few sentences. Dad passed away last night. Thought you should know. I stared at the email for a long time, not really sure how to feel. I wasn't surprised. I had known this was coming, but I didn't feel sad either. I didn't feel much of anything. I thought about replying, thought about calling Jake, asking how he was holding up, maybe even offering my condolences. But then I realized this was just another chance for them to pull me back in, and I wasn't going to let them. So I closed the email without responding and went on with my day, because I wasn't part of their world anymore. And for the first time in my life, I was okay with that. The ending I chose looking back, I don't regret walking away. I don't regret choosing myself for once. I spent years being invisible, years being ignored, forgotten, and pushed aside. And now, I finally got to exist for myself. Not for them, not for their expectations, just for me. And honestly, it feels pretty damn good. Story 2. The sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and purple as I, Emily Carter, wrapped up another grueling day at the prestigious law firm of Sterling and Sterling. My fingers flew across the keyboard, finalizing a complex merger agreement. At 28, I'd carved a niche for myself in the cutthroat legal world, but the long hours often left me feeling like I was living to work, not the other way around. As I shut down my laptop, a wave of weariness washed over me. I glanced at the framed photo on my desk, my late father, his kind eyes smiling back at me. He'd always encouraged me to pursue my dreams, but I wondered if he'd envisioned this life of endless paperwork and late nights. I grabbed my coat and headed out. The cool evening air, a welcome change from the stuffy office. As I stepped onto the busy downtown street, I spotted him leaning against my car, a figure I'd come to recognize instantly, Alex. We'd met at a local coffee shop a few months ago, a classic meet cute, if you will. I'd grabbed his latte by mistake, and we'd bonded over the mix-up. He was charming, with disarming blue eyes and a quick wit. Unlike the other men I'd met in this city, he seemed genuinely interested in me, not my job title or the size of my paycheck. "Hey," he greeted me, a warm smile lighting up his face. "Long day?" "Tell me about it," I sighed, running a hand through my hair. "This merger is finally done though, thank God," he chuckled. "Sounds rough. Fancy some celebratory pizza? That new place downtown is supposed to be amazing." "Pizza sounds perfect," I agreed, my stomach rumbling in agreement. As we walked towards the restaurant, Alex started talking about his day. He worked in finance, a world as demanding as my own. But then, he shifted the conversation to something more personal. "You know," he began, his voice taking on a slightly somber tone, "my last relationship was a disaster. My ex-wife, Lucy, she cheated on me. It was brutal. I felt a pang of sympathy." "Oh, Alex, I'm so sorry. That's awful," he sighed. "Yeah, well, it happened. The worst part was, my parents took her side. Cut me off completely. It was like I was the one who'd done something wrong. I was shocked. That's terrible. How could they? Family dynamics, I guess," he shrugged, a hint of bitterness in his voice. "The only one who stuck by me through it all was my sister, Lisa. She's my rock. I haven't met her yet, have I?" I asked. "No, but you'll like her," he said, grinning. "She's great. Has the same warped sense of humor as me." Over the next few months, Alex and I became inseparable. We went on dates, explored the city, and spent countless nights talking until the wee hours. He was kind, considerate, and genuinely seemed to care about me. His story about his ex-wife and his family resonated with me. I felt a protective instinct towards him, a desire to shield him from further pain. Our relationship progressed quickly, and before I knew it, he was down on one knee, asking me to marry him. I was swept off my feet. Despite the whirlwind romance, it felt right. Planning the wedding was a chaotic affair, juggling my demanding work schedule with dress fittings and venue hunting. Alex was a constant support support, though, always there to lend a hand or offer a calming word. The wedding day arrived in a blur of excitement and nerves. I walked down the aisle, my heart pounding in my chest, and saw Alex waiting for me at the altar, looking handsome and happy. The ceremony was beautiful, but a small niggle of unease lingered in the back of my mind. I noticed the absence of Alex's family. Besides Lisa, who was beaming and bubbly, there wasn't a single clerk in attendance. "Emily, this is Lisa," Alex said, introducing us after the ceremony. "It's so nice to finally meet you," Lisa said, her smile warm and genuine. "Alex has told me so much about you. All good things, I hope," I replied, returning her smile. "Of course," she laughed. "Congratulations." Despite the joy of the day, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was amiss. Why weren't Alex's parents here? Why was Lisa the only family member present? I brushed the thoughts aside, telling myself that family relationships could be complicated. The weeks after the wedding were pure bliss. Alex and I settled into a comfortable routine, enjoying quiet evenings at home, lazy Sunday mornings, and the simple joy of being together. But the honeymoon phase was about to come to an abrupt end. The shift was subtle at first. Alex seemed distracted. He'd come home late from work, his brow furrowed, and his responses to my questions were short, clipped. I chalked it up to work stress, something I understood all too well. But then Lisa started spending more time at our place, which, of course, was understandable. Her boyfriend had been abusive, Alex explained, and she needed a safe place to stay. "Emily," Alex began one evening, his voice hesitant. "There's something I need to talk to you about." My heart sank. "What is it?" "It's Lisa," he said. "She's going through a rough patch. Her boyfriend, he was abusive. She needs a place to stay for a while." I was taken aback. "Oh my God, that's terrible. Of course she can stay with us." "Absolutely. Are you sure?" he asked, a look of immense relief washing over his face. "Of course I'm sure," I reassured him. "She's family." The next day, Lisa moved into our guest room. She was a shadow of her former self, the vibrant, laughing woman from our wedding day, replaced by someone withdrawn and subdued. There were bruises visible on her arms and face, stark reminders of what she'd endured. "Hey, Lisa," I said, trying to sound upbeat. "I'm so sorry to hear about what happened. Please know you're safe here." She offered a weak smile. "Thanks, Emily. It means a lot." As the days turned into weeks, I noticed a pattern. Lisa and Alex were always together. They'd be in the kitchen cooking, their laughter echoing through the house. They'd be in the living room watching movies, their heads close together, whispering jokes I couldn't hear. It was natural, I told myself. They were siblings, after all. But sometimes it felt like I was the outsider, the third wheel in my own home. One evening, after dinner, I decided to address the elephant in the room. "Alex," I began cautiously. "I'm glad Lisa's here, and I'm happy we can help her. But what?" he prompted gently. "I sometimes feel a bit left out," I admitted, my voice barely above a whisper. "You two seem so close, and I wish I could be a part of that." Alex looked thoughtful for a moment. "I understand where you're coming from, Em," he said, "but Lisa and I have been through a lot together. It's hard to explain. I promise, though, I'll make an effort to make sure you don't feel this way." The next day, Alex organized a family movie night. It was fun, filled with laughter, popcorn fights, and shared memories. Lisa recounted stories from their childhood, and for a while, I felt like I belonged. But the seed of doubt had already been planted. I started noticing things. The whispered conversations that stopped abruptly when I entered the room. The way they'd exchange glances, communicating without a single word. I tried to dismiss it as sibling closeness, but a nagging feeling in my gut told me something was wrong. One afternoon, I found Lisa in the garden, tending to the roses. "Lisa, can we talk?" I asked. She looked up, a slightly startled expression on her face. "Sure, what's up?" "I've noticed you and Alex have a very close bond," I began, choosing my words carefully. "Which is great, but sometimes it feels like you share secrets I'm not privy to. It's probably just my imagination, but it makes me a bit uncomfortable." Lisa sighed. "Emily, I understand, but you have to understand Alex and I have been through a lot together. It's not that we're keeping secrets from you. It's just some things from the past we occasionally discuss. Things you wouldn't understand." I nodded, not entirely convinced, but I appreciated her honesty. "Thanks for understanding," I said. "I just wanted to clear the air. The following months were a blur. My workload intensified, and I found myself spending more and more time at the office, buried in paperwork. This meant Alex and Lisa had even more time together. My unease grew with each passing day. They shared a connection I couldn't penetrate, a bond forged in shared experiences I knew nothing about. The few moments I did have at home were filled with hushed whispers and awkward silences. One day, during a rare break at work, I confided in my colleague, Sarah. "I don't know, Sarah," I said, fiddling with my coffee cup. "I just can't shake this feeling." Sarah looked concerned. "What feeling?" "It's Lisa," I said. "She's been living with us for months now, and while I want to be supportive, something feels off. I can't explain it." Sarah pondered for a moment. "Have you talked to Alex about it?" I nodded. "Yes, but he dismisses it. He says I'm reading too much into things." "Maybe I am." Sarah leaned in, lowering her voice. "You know, if you really want to put your mind at ease, I have a friend in the police department. Maybe he could check if Lisa actually filed a police report about the abuse." The idea was tempting. "Do you think that's a good idea?" "I don't want to betray her trust," Sarah shrugged. "It's just to give you peace of mind. If there's a report, then you know she's being truthful. If not, then you have every right to be concerned." I hesitated for a moment before finally nodding. "Okay," I said. "Let's do it." A few days later, Sarah approached me with the information. "Emily," she said, her face grim, "there's no record of Lisa reporting any abuse." My heart sank. "Are you sure?" Sarah nodded. "My friend double-checked. There's nothing." I felt like I was living in a nightmare. I went home that evening, my mind racing. I wanted to confront Lisa, but I decided to approach the situation carefully. At dinner, I casually brought up the subject. "Lisa," I began, "I have a friend who works with domestic abuse victims. She said she could help if you wanted to press charges, or even just get some counseling." Lisa looked taken aback. "Oh, that's thoughtful of you, Emily, but I'd rather not. It's a painful chapter, and I just want to move on. But it's important to report these things," I pressed, watching her closely. "For your safety and for others." She looked flustered. "I know, but it's my choice. I don't want to drag everything back up." The conversation ended there, but my suspicions had grown tenfold. Over the next few weeks, I became hyper-vigilant, noticing every little detail. The stolen glances, the way they seemed to communicate telepathically, the secretive phone calls Lisa would take outside. Something was definitely not right. The pieces of the puzzle were slowly falling into place, but I needed the final, undeniable proof. An idea began to form in my mind, a risky plan that could either confirm my suspicions or blow up in my face. I decided to fake a business trip. I told Alex and Lisa I had an important meeting in Chicago, a last-minute thing that required me to fly out the next day. They seemed surprised, even a little too eager, which only solidified my resolve. The following morning, I packed a small suitcase, kissed Alex goodbye, and drove to the airport. But instead of checking in for my flight, I rented a car and drove to a motel near our house. I spent the day trying to distract myself, shopping, watching movies, anything to keep my mind off the impending confrontation. As night fell, I drove back towards my house, my heart pounding in my chest. I parked a few blocks away and approached on foot, the familiar sight of our home looming in the darkness. The lights were on in the living room, casting a warm glow. I crept around the back, silently unlocking the door with my key. My footsteps were muffled as I made my way through the house, the tension building with each step. I reached our bedroom door and paused, my hand hovering over the knob. Taking a deep breath, I pushed the door open. The sight that greeted me was like a punch to the gut. There, in our bed, lay Alex and Lisa, tangled in each other's arms, fast asleep. The betrayal was so profound, so visceral, that it took my breath away. "You've got to be kidding me," I screamed. The words ripped from my throat in a mixture of rage and heartbreak. Alex and Lisa jolted awake, their eyes wide with panic. "Emily," Alex gasped, scrambling out of bed. "This isn't what it looks like." "Really?" I scoffed, tears streaming down my face. "Because it looks a hell of a lot like you're in bed with your sister." Lisa clutched the sheets to her chest, her face pale. "Emily, let us explain." "Explain?" I shouted, my voice cracking. "How can you possibly explain this?" Alex took a deep breath. Lisa is not my sister." The words hung in the air, heavy with implication. My mind reeled. The photo I'd found, their closeness, the secrets, it all clicked into place. She's someone I've known since university," Alex continued, his voice barely above a whisper. "So, all this time, I began, my voice trembling. You lied to me about everything? Lisa finally spoke, her voice choked with emotion. We didn't plan for it to go this far, but when we met you, you were so kind, so generous. We went along with it. I looked at Alex, searching for a flicker of remorse in his eyes. Why, Alex? Why did you marry me if you loved her? He looked down, shamefaced. I thought I could move on from her. You were everything I ever wanted, but old feelings resurfaced. You betrayed me, I said, my voice thick with tears. In my own home. I can't even look at you right now. I turned and fled the room. The image of them together seared into my memory. I spent the rest of the night in the guest room, curled up in a ball, sobbing uncontrollably. The next morning I went to see Jenna, my colleague and confidant. She listened patiently as I recounted the events of the previous night, her face a mixture of anger and sympathy. Emily, this is unbelievable, she said, shaking her head. How could they do this to you? I was a fool, I mumbled, staring at the floor. I believed him. I trusted him. Jenna reached across the table and took my hand. It's not your fault, she said firmly. He's the one who lied. He's the one who betrayed your trust. I took a deep breath. I want to take this to court, Jenna, I said, my voice hardening with resolve. I want to make sure they pay for what they've done. Jenna's eyes narrowed with determination. You have every right to, she said. Let's go over the details. We'll build the strongest case possible. Over the next few weeks, Jenna and I worked tirelessly, gathering evidence and strategizing. We delved into the complexities of marriage fraud and emotional distress, determined to expose Alex and Lisa's deception. One evening, Jenna called me with unexpected news. Emily, she said, her voice laced with excitement. I managed to get in touch with Alex's ex-wife. She's willing to help us. A wave of relief washed over me. Thank you, Jenna, I said, my voice thick with gratitude. This could be exactly what we need. A few days later, I met with Marianne, Alex's ex-wife. She was a petite woman with a surprisingly steely gaze. Emily, she said, extending her hand, I'm so sorry for what you're going through. Alex has a history of deceit. I experienced it firsthand. I nodded, taking a seat across from her. Tell me everything, Marianne sighed. We were in love, or so I thought. But then I found out about his affair with Lisa. When I confronted him, he turned it around on me, painted me as the villain, told everyone I was the one cheating. Tears welled up in her eyes. I was left with nothing. I squeezed her hand. Together, I said, we can make sure he doesn't hurt anyone else. A determined look crossed Marianne's face. I still have all the evidence, she said. Text messages, photos, everything. We can use it in court. Our case was gaining momentum. With Marianne's evidence and my testimony, we had a strong foundation. But then, another unexpected twist emerged. Jenna received a call from Alex's parents. They wanted to meet with me. The next day, I found myself sitting across from two elderly people, their faces etched with worry and regret. Miss S. Carter, Alex's father began, his voice trembling. We're so sorry. We tried to warn you, but we didn't know how, his mother finished, tears streaming down her face. We disowned Alex after what he did to Marianne, but we never imagined he'd do something like this again. Their words fueled my resolve. We're taking this to court, I said firmly. He won't be able to hurt anyone else. The day of the trial arrived, and I walked into the courtroom with Jenna by my side, my heart pounding in my chest. The room was packed, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. I saw Alex and Lisa huddled together, whispering amongst themselves. Alex glanced in my direction, and for a fleeting moment, I saw a flicker of guilt in his eyes. Stay strong, Emily, Jenna whispered, squeezing my hand. We've got this. The trial began, and Jenna delivered a powerful opening statement, laying bare the intricate web of deceit spun by Alex and Lisa. Their lawyer attempted to portray the situation as a simple misunderstanding, but the evidence was overwhelming. Marianne's testimony was particularly damning. She spoke calmly and clearly, recounting the betrayal she had suffered at Alex's hands. I loved him, she said, her voice breaking slightly, but he took everything from me, my reputation, my self-worth. She then presented the evidence she had meticulously preserved, text messages, photos, even a letter from Alex confessing to his lies. Alex's lawyer tried to discredit her, but her dignity and the sheer weight of the evidence spoke for themselves. When it was my turn to testify, I poured my heart out to the court. I spoke about my relationship with Alex, the whirlwind romance, the gut-wrenching betrayal I had felt when I discovered the truth. I described how I had opened my home and my heart to him, only to be repaid with deceit and humiliation. Lisa's testimony was a jumbled mess of contradictions and half-truths. Under Jenna's relentless questioning, she admitted that she and Alex had been in a relationship for years. But we never meant to hurt anyone, she insisted, tears streaming down her face. Then why lie about being siblings? Jenna pressed. Why weave such a complicated web of deceit? Lisa looked down, her voice barely a whisper. I love him, she said. I'd do anything for him, but I know now that what we did was wrong. Finally, it was Alex's turn to take the stand. He looked defeated, a shadow of the confident man I had once known. Why did you do it, Alex? Jenna asked pointedly. He sighed. I thought I could have it all, he admitted. Emily's love and Lisa's companionship. I never thought it would unravel like this. The cross-examination was intense, but Alex's admissions left little room for his defense to maneuver. The closing arguments were passionate, with Jenna eloquently articulating the pain and suffering caused by Alex and Lisa's actions. Alex's lawyer made a weak attempt to argue that no real harm had been done, but it was clear the jury wasn't buying it. As the jury deliberated, the tension in the courtroom was palpable. Hours crawled by, each one feeling like an eternity. Finally, the jury returned, and the foreman read the verdict. We find the defendants, Alex and Lisa, guilty of fraud and intentional infliction of emotional distress. A wave of relief washed over me, followed by a sense of profound sadness. I had won, but at what cost? My marriage, my trust, my faith in love. It had all been shattered. The aftermath of the trial was a whirlwind of media attention and public scrutiny. Reporters hounded me for interviews, and strangers reached out with messages of support. But I was exhausted, emotionally drained. I just wanted to disappear, to escape the constant reminders of the ordeal I had endured. One evening, Jenna found me curled up on my couch, staring blankly at the TV. Emily, she said gently, you can't just shut down like this. You need to talk about it, to process what happened. I looked up at her, my eyes filled with tears. I know, Jenna, I whispered, but every time I think about Alex and Lisa, I feel this burning rage. I just want to forget them, to erase them from my memory. Jenna sighed. It's natural to feel that way, she said, but running away from it won't help. Maybe you should consider therapy. It could help you work through those emotions. I nodded slowly. I've thought about it, I admitted. I'll give it a try. And so, I embarked on a journey of healing, a journey that would take me through the darkest corners of my pain and eventually lead me towards a new beginning. It wouldn't be easy, but I knew, deep down, that I was strong enough to overcome this, to emerge from the ashes of betrayal and reclaim my life.